Aquarius, this is your forecast for the month of September 2018. This is a general reading for Aquarius Sun, Aquarius Rising, or Aquarius Moon. For a more rounded overview, please watch your rising and moon sign as well. So Aquarius, you have this Five of Pentacles the first week. So you are dealing with something. Perhaps you've fallen on some kind of hard times. Maybe you're dealing with poor health or some kind of loss or rejection of some sort. You are under some sort of strain where perhaps your resources are dwindling. And there's a sense of uncertainty about your situation. You may have overextended yourself in some way, which has led to a lack of faith in something. Maybe you feel like you've been put out in the cold, or you're dealing with some loneliness or some worries, some kind of setback. And so you are looking at your situation and giving it, some close examination. Because it's likely that recently a couple of things have not played out the way you had hoped, and things have not gone as smoothly as you wanted. And it's likely that not only your finances are under strain, but also your emotions have bearing also. And it seems like whatever you're involved in is overwhelming, perhaps hopeless, or extremely complicated. But the more you worry about that, the more concern you have for your circumstances, the more at risk you become physically. It's going to undermine your health, or you're going to be so distracted by your circumstances that you end up triggering some kind of accident. So this is a period for you to examine whether you've gotten too far away from your spiritual values, and where maybe you're putting the focus on the wrong thing. It could be that your faith is going to be restored, that a situation is going to turn around for the better. Maybe you gain some spiritual awareness as a result of circumstances, or your health improves, or it's the end of a situation where you were struggling. Maybe you didn't have money, or you were unemployed. Maybe you were dealing with some kind of extreme adversity or frustration. And so things may change. In fact, you may learn some kind of valuable lesson in this process, that you're not as bad off as you think. Things didn't cost you as much, whether that was emotionally or financially, as far as your time. And so this is a time to take care of you, to take care of yourself. If you're under some kind of stress or strain in whatever area of life, you need to pamper you. And so this is a week where there's going to be some change, some kind of transformation. Now, maybe there's an ending to a situation, for better or worse. You are going to have to face a truth and get on with circumstances. Maybe you've been waiting in vain for a situation, and you're going to have to take control of it. It could be that you are rejecting others, or feeling that maybe there's just been too many demands. And, especially from the people that are closest to you. And it could be that, you've been playing it loose and fast, or someone connected to you. Maybe just the slightest risk that you take upends your agenda, whether that's your safety or your finances. There could be some consequences due to some poor judgment. So this may not be the best week for you to overextend yourself, whether that's to loan money or borrow it. And you may feel like everything is a challenge, that you're meeting with one delay or obstacle after another. It's taking a long time for you to make some things happen. Your work may be especially challenging. Maybe you have a lot of it, or you're dealing with a lot of paperwork, or it's taking more time to get a task accomplished than you had hoped. Maybe it's difficult for you to connect with others. Maybe, you cross wires, or you're having to make 5 phone calls just to connect to a person. It could also be that it's difficult for you to figure out the root of an illness, that getting the help you need, or the proper diagnosis, or the medication, or whatever, is just as challenging as whatever it is that you're dealing with. And it could be that this overload makes you start to, try to figure out what the blame is. Maybe you feel like, well, if I didn't have so much work, I could run my personal life a whole lot better. Or if, people weren't acting out at home, I could really focus on my work and get ahead. So you're trying to create some kind of balance. And again, there's a change taking place, a change to your finances or your physical well-being or to your emotional state, for better or for worse. Now, the second week you are struggling. Maybe you're dealing with competitors or opponents. You are involved in some kind of situation where perhaps there's some contention with others. There's some ego battles taking place, some power plays. And so this could be a week where you feel uneasy because you're experiencing some kind of discord, either within yourself or with other people. There's something about your situation where there's some instability, perhaps some exaggeration of some sort. And you may be physically under the weather because you're, taxed. You're overexerting your energy, whether it's mentally, emotionally, financially, physically. And you may be working to gain your freedom. You're trying to work in your own self-interest. So something about this week is disruptive. You may have to defend yourself, or perhaps you're defending other people, but you are being challenged and you are dealing with challenges. So again, a second week of hassles, of conflict, of power struggles, and for some of you, there may be some legal issues to attend to. But in spite of that, it is your desire, your own ego, that is moving a situation. So there could be some unexpected events that take place at work, at home, or both, that cause you to question yourself. And maybe that's the Five of Pentacles, this lack of faith in a situation. You're starting to wonder if you're doing the right thing, if your work is the work you really want to do, or does it mean anything to anybody? Are your connections meaningful? Are you being supported? Are you making good decisions? Are the people around you sincere? So you are struggling mentally, emotionally with your circumstances and what's occurring because there's some kind of turmoil. Now, it could be that you are going to step up to the plate. You're going to solve a problem. You're going to take on more of the load. You're going to behave in an honorable way and meet your responsibilities and go above and beyond, or perhaps somebody's doing that for you. So you may volunteer to take on more, even though that wasn't the original plan. And even though you may be struggling with all of this emotion and turmoil, you're not going to push boundaries. You're going to be very mindful of where the lines are. And you're not going to want to push people or a situation beyond that. So you could be struggling with your own confidence, or you're confident in your ability to solve a problem and overcome that Five of Pentacles. So this is about your success, your recognition, and how much you appreciate and believe in yourself. Remember, the Five of Pentacles said, take care of you. So this is another week of loving yourself. Now, you're probably in a situation where you are dealing with some kind of strife. Maybe it's physical harm. Maybe it's a lawsuit. Maybe it's an underhanded opponent. Or maybe you're trying to solve a problem to get some relief after some conflict. But it's likely that either you or other people are making a situation difficult. And maybe somebody's not even addressing the real root. There's some disagreements. There is an underlying issue. But on the meantime, you could be bickering about something superficial rather than addressing the real cause of a situation. And maybe you're conflicted about what the issue is. Maybe you haven't made peace with yourself. And the more you're struggling with yourself, the more difficult it's going to be for you to get along with other people. Again, you are in a battle. Every time you solve one thing, there's another problem to deal with. So you may be confronting continuous delays, challenges, obstacles, and perhaps your determination to solve something, your insistence in getting ahead, is burning you out. You may be beating your head against a wall, coming to face with a no-win situation, and you keep working at it and you can't relax, you can't get ahead, and again, it's wearing on you physically. So this is a week to have self-appreciation, confidence in your ability to solve a problem and overcome some kind of challenge. Now, by the third week, you may have been working so hard that you've tired yourself out. And so this is a quiet week where you may be withdrawing. You could be trying to solve a problem and you're trying to figure out what you're going to do. Now, if you were struggling with your health, maybe you're recuperating or you're dealing with somebody who had an illness. Maybe you're visiting the hospital. Maybe you're working in a hospital. Maybe you're a medical patient yourself. It could be that you are struggling with something because somebody has arrived, maybe an unwelcome guest, or you feel like you've been banished, you're an outcast, or maybe you feel a prisoner of sorts, or you're in exile, you're getting away from it all. So this is a week where there's not a lot of activity, not a lot of communication, nothing really moving forward, a lot of loose ends in the air. But you may also be putting your frustration to the side and going within. You may be contemplating, you may be meditating, you may be connecting to source, you may be seeking answers through your spiritual connection. So you may be reconsidering your position with regard to a situation. You're regrouping. So things are slow right now. Now that may be welcome for you. Maybe you were struggling, doing a whole lot, and it was wearing on you physically. And this is a welcome break. You're going to get some relief from the stress. You're going to withdraw and you're going to recover from a situation. So you're fine with not talking, with not dealing with others. So you're trying to figure out what your next move is going to be. And it could be that there's something that's going to occur that's going to make you believe in life again. It's going to renew your faith, restore your hope about a situation. Or you're going to really come to terms with where you are vulnerable and where your security is at risk and where perhaps now you do have a lack of faith. You're not even motivated anymore. Whatever it is, you are at the end of some kind of process, or a process has recently ended that requires you to regroup and come up with a new plan. And again, maybe you're pushing too far. You're going to extremes. You're trying to do something that's just not possible, or you're trying to do too much, or you're recognizing where you have been doing very little. So you're at this point where nothing really is going on and you're just trying to maintain the status quo. You may be dealing with a situation where people are making things harder than necessary, or, everything's all quiet and maybe you don't really even know what's going on, but you're just not going to jump to conclusions. You're waiting to see how things play out and you're not going to let your mind play tricks with you. There is a lot hanging in limbo, and it's important that you don't just try to wish a problem away or think that you can save something or resurrect something that doesn't really have life left in it. In this circumstance, denying the facts is harmful to you. Now, it may center around a vacation or taking a break. It could be maybe, some element of socializing. Maybe this is about a new romance or a new friendship or some opportunity on the horizon, or figuring out, where perhaps you've been too closed off. Maybe you need to get out into the community and, connect to other people. You have limited options this week, though. It could be that you're involved in a conflict and there's a lack of faith in getting that explanation or an apology, or, maybe you're not you want to figure out what's going on, and something is making it difficult for that to happen. Now, if you have overstepped that boundary, if you couldn't avoid the temptation to do so, then it's likely that you're not going to want to deal with a situation. You're going to want things to go quiet. You want to quietly sweep that episode under the rug and not deal with it. But this is about putting things out in the open. If you don't address a situation and you don't do it in the right time, you're going to complicate, a whole host of other situations. Now, the last week you have the Temperance card. For some of you, this may have to do with a Sagittarius person. For others of you, perhaps you're connecting to a healer, especially if you were dealing with some kind of emotional or physical or spiritual issue. For others of you, maybe you're trying to figure out a situation where you're working on something artistic, and you're trying to solve a problem that connects to creation, getting the right mix. What can you do that makes something more pleasing or presentable or palatable? So, you may be involved in something where you're in mediation. You're trying to compromise and work out some kind of issue or problem. And so for some of you, this is a week to reconcile some differences, to try to find the middle course. And again, the sense of proper timing is going to be important, because the sign of Sagittarius is known for procrastination or exaggeration. So the sense of proper timing, you may be trying to figure out the strategy to execute something at just the right time. And so it's going to be important for, if you've been, doing too much or too little, for you not to take an extreme position this week. It may be that the strategy becomes having some discretion so that you can come up with the right situation. It may require forgiveness for something, or having to accommodate or adapt to new circumstances. So you may be trying to figure out whether you're compatible with someone or not. And this is a good week. Last week you were quiet. You were trying to figure out perhaps just the right words to solve a problem. This is a week to put things out on the table. You're going to have to, go over issues where there have been some differences, some struggles, some contention, and you're going to have to be brutally honest. But if you want to make progress, you're going to have to do it in such a way where you choose your words carefully, where you don't come off as overbearing or pushy or overstepping those boundaries. You're going to have to be diplomatic. And you're going to have to say things where people don't feel as if they're being judged. So clearing the air, putting something out in the open is going to make you feel better. And you're having to look at situations that are not good for you, and where perhaps you've been selling yourself on the idea that it is, where you have been operating, under some kind of illusion, or chaining yourself to a situation or to a person that is indeed negative, and just using that as a convenient habit or an excuse for not doing your best and making the most of yourself. Once again, you may be struggling with some kind of illness. Because of circumstances, it may be difficult for you to relax, and you may find yourself susceptible to something puzzling, mysterious, or annoying in some way, or someone connected to you is. This is also a week where perhaps you're testing the waters. You are, sticking your toe in to see, how things are going to work out, but you also want to remain grounded. You want to keep one foot on the ground within a situation. For some of you, maybe there's an illness that connects to drinking. Or finding the proper medication or the right diagnosis. So you're having to look at where something is right and wrong for you. You're also getting in touch with spirit. If you've been meditating or going within, your dreams may be very important. Maybe you've even been struggling to try to decipher what your dreams are trying to tell you. They may be difficult to interpret, and yet they're very meaningful. Again, some of you are maybe, in danger of some kind of close call because you get distracted with a situation. And maybe you think you're doing something because your intuition is telling you to, but in fact, you're just being rash and impulsive. The Temperance card can drive you to go to extremes. You're going too far. And you may end up doing something that you regret. Maybe you say the wrong thing, or maybe you purchase something. This is about, excess in some way, where, you can't curb your appetite. You can't, fend off your temptation. You give in to some compulsive or impulsive behavior. Now, some of you, again, this is about healing, whether that is your emotional state, your financial state, your physical state. You want to heal the inner, the outer, to find some balance. It may mean withdrawing, taking some time out, looking after yourself, nourishing yourself with the right food, the right medication, the right healing essentials. There's a need for self-love. And so you're looking at where perhaps you've been struggling because you've been placing too many demands on yourself, or trying to give in to the demands of your loved ones and killing yourself in the process. So this is about, again, taking that middle road. Now, in some cases, somebody's making something harder because there's a refusal to compromise. Somebody is overreacting or overdoing it in some way. Maybe there's something you want to accomplish and your ambition is excessive. It could be that you're dealing with something where there's some volatility. Somebody's just releasing their passion, or there's a lack of restraint or poor judgment, maybe to the point of immorality. So you're having to look at where maybe you're not even practicing safe behavior. There's something inappropriate because there's an imbalance between your mind, your emotions. In some cases, you may be dealing with a serious illness. So you may be feeling very unsettled this week. There could be some mood shifts, some extreme emotions. But you have the ability to heal, to transmute, to shift between two worlds, the physical and the divine. Now, because this is a major card, there are lessons to be learned. You're going to have to learn how to endure, to move through difficult situations. But you're also having to get lessons where you may have, used some misjudgment about yourself, a person, or circumstances. And because this is a major card, it's likely that ultimately a situation is out of your hands. Now, the underlying energy is the Seven of Swords. And so you may be dealing with a situation where you're coming up with some strategy, you're becoming very ingenious, or you're dealing with a situation where there's been some treachery or deceit, maybe even theft. For some of you, this is about taking that break to heal. And maybe you're going from one place to another. You're relocating from here to there, or maybe you're overwhelmed with errands. It's a lot of coming and going back and forth. You're doing a lot of things. So you are trying to deal with something where maybe there are issues of avoidance, whether that's avoiding facing the truth, avoiding an apology. You may feel like you're in a situation where there's some bad luck. Maybe you're experiencing some form of betrayal where you feel cheated, or where there's been some illicit tactics taking place, where you've been ripped off. Maybe you're defeating yourself in some way. You have been self-sabotaging. For some of you, there are issues of unfaithfulness. Maybe you're involved in a secret love affair, or your partner is. So you may feel like you're struggling because you're meeting with a circumstance where there's been some futility. You haven't been able to make headway, and it causes you to question yourself, your motives, or those of others. You want to escape. You want to get away from something. And maybe you're taking some circuitous means to do that, or someone else is. There could be issues where somebody is insincere or being taken advantage of. And a situation is going to put a spotlight on you or other people regarding integrity. Whether you've thought too much of yourself or you didn't think enough of yourself, You're going to have to be careful about what you put stock in. You may be very quick to believe things that you hear and they're not valid, or you're going to have to be very careful and mindful of the things that you say. You could be dealing with some outright theft, but you could also need to look at where you've been wasting your time. Again, being chained to people or circumstances and telling yourself that you're doing it for good cause or good reason. So, you're having to look at unproductive relationships where you've been wasting your efforts, your talents, your emotions. You're looking at where you've been putting stock into something, where you've been stealing from yourself, where there's been either a lack of integrity or quality in your relationships. And it could be that the more you care for somebody or the more you dislike somebody, you are no longer able to be objective, and you may feel, that you can get away with something, or you feel as if somebody's trying to get over on you. Now, positively, this is going to, allow you to remove yourself, especially if you've been buckling under the burden of the demands of others. This card says you can escape. It's your get out of jail card. You can remove yourself from situations that don't have anything to do with you. Maybe you've been taking on the burden of other people too much, and you're going to leave them to their own devices. This is also a situation where you may be surprised. Somebody may put everything out there. They may not lie when you thought they would. Maybe they show up. Maybe they keep that promise where you thought you were going to be disappointed. Or if somebody has been evasive, maybe they actually show up for that appointment or that encounter. For others of you, you are looking at issues of compatibility. There could be a third party that's trying to intercede in a situation, maybe introduce you to somebody that they feel would be helpful to you. And perhaps that turns out better than you expected. You may ultimately realize again that you have the strength to solve a problem, that you're not as bad off, and that you haven't fallen as behind in a situation as you thought. So you may feel a greater sense of freedom. You may feel some form of exhilaration because you came up with a strategy. And maybe you feel you can do anything. Maybe you break out of your routine. It could be the routine of, letting other people pressure you. It could be breaking out of your routine. You're going to take a break. You're going to go in retreat mode. You're going to take a vacation. Maybe you're going to take better care of yourself. In other cases, you're seeking freedom. You need to let go of something and move on. This is, though, always a warning card. You need to be careful of your possessions, your health, your reputation, your safety. Something you said or did could come back in the most unfortunate way. Maybe you're trying to deceive somebody, or you're planning some kind of intrigue, and that actually ends up backfiring on you. So this is going to be a month where you have to be totally honest. You have to use that temperance card and be totally frank and above board in all your dealings. Resist any urge to embellish or exaggerate the truth. And if you are dependent on somebody in any kind of way, you need them to rubber stamp your confidence. You need them to validate your opinion. You need their affection, their love. In a negative way, you're going to find that that's a draining influence. It's going to sap your strength, your confidence, your individuality, and it's going to keep you from effectively standing up for yourself. So you may have to let go of something, and you're having to look at, again, being objective, being impartial. Now you have one major card, that is the Temperance card. So again, your judgment, whether you're on point, whether you can compromise, and whether you can practice self-restraint, is going to be important. This is going to be a challenging month for you. And you're involved in a situation where maybe, somebody is devoid of emotion, or there's some coldness, or especially if people aren't speaking to one another, or you're solving a problem, you're getting past the exaggerated emotions and logic rules the day. There's some kind of dilemma that has presented where there's an element of uncertainty, either due to a lack of information, not adequately dealing with emotions or intuition. You could be in conflict with others or at odds with yourself, or involved in a situation where somebody is instigating some kind of turmoil. And it appears that you make progress and then you're in this holding pattern. You're stuck and you have to go back and then move forward again. And it's situated around some kind of accident or loss. However, in spite of the problems, the obstacles, the challenges, and the amount of things that go wrong, you're going to use that Five of Wands to solve a problem and to keep fighting. And by the end of the month, you are setting some well thought out plans into action. Maybe you are creating support through your power of communication. You have the ability to motivate others through your speech. It could be a sudden change in your career, a complete lifestyle change, or the ability to reinvent your life. All right, Aquarius, I hope you enjoyed this reading. If so, please subscribe, and you can always join me on Instagram, over at Patreon for some perks, at my blog for a daily post. And of course, you can always book a personal reading at thealchemistastrologer.com.